Hey guys, Alf here, and this video is going to be different. I'm going to be doing this more. I wanted to do some social commentary and talk about stuff and give my opinion on things that's going on, I guess, in the internet and the world and everything in general. If you guys have certain topics you want me to talk about, let me know. So, recently there was a video made by a YouTuber called RageAfterStorm, and it had to do with race realism and the statistics for like IQ among races. And it seems like her general idea was that IQ was affecting, um, I guess, violence. Like people with lower IQ are more violent, and she was using that as an explanation for why the crime stats, well, violent crime stats are higher for black people in the US. This created an issue, and on Twitter, lots of people were coming down on her, calling her a racist. But then there was another side of people who were saying, hey, those stats are correct. Are you saying, like, oh, you people can't accept facts and because of emotions? But I don't think that was the actual argument. I mean, that wasn't my argument, but from what I seen of people arguing against her, it seemed like they were trying to say that she came to the wrong conclusion because of the stats. They were accepting the stats. They didn't like her sources because she sourced from a white supremacy site, and they went through the sources and debunked all of it, most of it. But the stats were correct. That's not debatable. But what is debatable is the conclusion. It kind of makes me think of how feminists use the wage gap, and they looked on these statistics that women were earning less than men, and they came to the conclusion that this must be because of sexism. Although the stats didn't give a conclusion or didn't give a reason why women were getting paid less. That statistic has been debunked, and even the people who made who researched those stats even said don't use these stats. They're not correct. So that's irrelevant. But it's just a concept that looking at stats, you come to a conclusion, and correlation isn't always causation. So just because you see these stats doesn't mean your conclusion is correct. It could be many factors. It could be a completely different factor. So what I wanted to do in this video was talk about my experiences and observations, which is anecdotal, I understand, but I wanted to give my experience and observations of growing up in the hood, growing up in the ghetto, and in low poverty, and the mentality that goes on that equates to people being violent. But if you want to see argumentation for this, you can see other people's videos. Andy Worski on his channel did a live stream, and he discusses it there with other YouTubers. Some black guy did one too with other YouTubers. And with Andy Worski's live chat, if you want to know about the bell curve, Atheism is Unstoppable describes it there, and they talk about that as well. I don't know much about the bell curve, like I haven't read that book or anything about it, so I can't talk about that. All I can talk about is my personal experiences. One more time, I'd like to clarify that this is anecdotal. This is my own personal experiences in the hood, and also this is in no way a justification for people being violent or committing crime in these areas. I'm just discussing this for the point of showing that it's not just one factor that causes people to be violent in these communities. I don't think it's genetic, or if it is genetic, it's probably a very small amount of that, because I believe it would have to do with environment and the way you're raised, and maybe a mixture of nurture versus nature. But it's a lot of it has to do with nurture, and unless you're raised in a different environment and raised in a different way, you're not going to break that. So let me get into what the mentality is like in the ghetto. So living in the ghetto, you have there is a certain mentality, and it's very dogmatic. It's almost like a religion. It's a set way you have to live. It's difficult to live any other way, because if you don't live this way, people come down on you, and it's hard to escape that. And when you're raised in this way, it's almost like a brainwashing. It's hard to think differently and see the world differently and think that there's any other way to live. It's the mentality itself is almost like prison life, and possibly it's because a lot of people there have been in prison and come out and still have that mentality, and then they keep that mentality in the hood, and then other people see that mentality and follow it. Not sure if that's the reason why, but it is very similar to prison, wherein you can't appear to be weak, you can't be disrespected, you take what you want, and that's the mentality you're raised with in the hood by your environment. A majority of the time by your parents bring it down to you, or parent. If you live in the hood and someone disrespects you, you have to either beat that person's ass or kill them. That is the mentality. There's no, oh yeah, I'll let this one slide. You do that, you're fucked. Everybody who witnesses that is gonna see you as weak, and now you are prey to predators. And no one will respect you after that. Everybody will diss you. They'll steal your shoes. They'll beat the shit out of you whenever they want. They'll throw shit at you. They'll call you a bitch. I mean, I grew up in the ghetto till I would say I was like 9 or 11. So I didn't keep that mentality now. I'm almost 40. So that's long gone. But it did take me a while to get rid of that mentality. And I still have friends who grew up in the ghetto till they were older, and even now that we're close to 40, still struggle with that mentality. I mean, they moved out of it at a later time than I did, like maybe in their, like I moved out preteens, they moved out later teens, and they still struggle with that mentality. Even though they try their best to be good now, there's still things that happen that I could see it in their face, or they'll say like, oh my God, I wish I could fucking beat the shit out of this person for like the smallest infraction, because they see that as a disrespect. And the most important thing in the ghetto is respect. If you don't have respect and you don't earn the respect of other people by being a tough motherfucker, by being violent, then you don't have shit, and you're gonna get fucked with, you know, and then people are just gonna beat on you for fun. Well, I also had the benefit of having parents who were immigrants and came here with a different mentality from the people who grew up in the hood. You know what I'm saying? Like generationally. I have friends whose parents grew up in the same area, and their parents have the same mentality. Whereas, oh, you got into a fight with this person? 1 second. They go to the other room, come back. Here's a gun. Go kill that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Imagine your parent telling you to go kill someone because you got into a fight, or a friend of yours that you fought one time. You guys squash the beef and say, you know, no, we're cool. You know, we got drunk. It was stupid. And your parent gives you a gun and says, go kill that person. That's the ghetto mentality. That's the mentality that is perpetuated through generations and through people around you. A lot of these people grow up without fathers. When you have no one to look up to, you go to the streets and look up at the people in the streets. You know what I'm saying? You could be 8 years old hanging out on your porch, and you're looking up at the 16, 17-year-olds that you see, and you take them as your idols. And these people are gang members and career criminals, and people that are going nowhere and don't care and living a short existence of robbing, stealing, selling drugs. That's what they do. And it's a perpetuated cycle. You know, growing up there, like to today, it's not like I moved very far away. So till today, I still know, you know, gang members, people who have spent at least a decade in jail, people who have done some fucked up shit and never been caught, you know, like all types of shit like that. And lucky for me, I made the right friends, so people never really fucked with me, but I could have easily been fucked with. And even when I left the ghetto, I still had that mentality somewhat. And, you know, I would tell my friends for any infraction, like, yo, let's go to this guy's house and beat his fucking ass, and fucking drag out his dad and beat his ass too. Fuck it, his little brother will beat his ass too. You know what I'm saying? And everybody be like, whoa, chill. It wasn't that serious, you know? And like, we could just go and talk to him. And I'd be like, oh yeah. And my other friend that moved out the ghetto was like that too, you know? And me and him clicked because of that. But in the end, he also was, after telling him, like, we could just talk it out, and be like, oh, really? Like, like we don't even understand those concepts, because it's like it's so ingrained in you. It really is like a dogma. It's so ingrained in you to take what you want, to don't let anybody disrespect you. That you got to make a living your own way. Fuck learning, fuck education. Like I said, I had the benefit of being raised by immigrant parents who had a completely different mentality. Like, my mom is from Peru, my dad is from Dominican Republic, and they came here with completely different mentalities. They just wanted to make money. They met here, but both of them had the same idea, that they just wanted to make a better life and have a family and stuff. So that mentality left me pretty quick, and never was really too ingrained in me, because that wasn't taught to me at home. I only learned that in the streets. And since I moved out at such a young age, I didn't have much time in the streets to learn that. So yeah, I broke through that very easily. But I still know people to this day that are my age or older that still have that same exact mentality. For every infraction upon them that they view as disrespect, they're ready to go destroy somebody. And I gotta be like, hey man, chill. It's not that serious. Let that shit slide. It's not worth going to jail over some fucking stupid little fucking thing you view as disrespect. It's not that serious. Like, why ruin your fucking life over somebody calling you a name or brushing against you, man? There's been times where we've gotten into fights because two people walking down the street, or two groups of people walking down the street, and one brushes their arm brushes against the other, and the guy goes, yo, what the fuck, what's the deal, yo? And then you can't turn around and be like, oh, sorry, because then you're the bitch, and then they're really gonna fuck you up. So you got to turn around and be like, what the fuck, why'd you brush into me? And then it turns into blah 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 blah, fighting and shit. It's really stupid. There's really no justification for it. But that is an ingrained mentality. Like I said, it's a dogma. It's almost a religion. Like, this is the way to live. There is no other way. And that's why you see people come out of the ghetto and they'll still commit these crimes, still do these silly things that you're like, what the fuck? You're like, look at sport athletes and shit. Like, you're rich. What the fuck you got guns for, and smacking people in clubs and shit? Like, what the fuck you doing that shit for? You're rich as fuck. You're living good. Why ruin that and go to jail? What's the point of that shit? Doesn't make any fucking sense. Now, that's not to say that people can't get out of there, or that people who grew up with that mentality won't change. They can. It's just like religion. You can be raised within a certain religion and not believe it. I was raised Catholic. I grew up in a Catholic home, but at a young age, I was questioning it, and by the time I was a teenager, I had completely abandoned it. So that's not to say that somebody raised in the ghetto, taught to be this way, can't question it as they're growing up, and by the time they reach a certain age, change their mind and be like, wait, there's other ways to live. I don't have to live like this. And then try to pursue a course of action that will help them leave the area and live a different way. That's totally possible. But as you see as well with religion, there's like a percentage of people that do that are free thinking, and will rebel against the standard of their environment. And like, I grew up in a totally Christian area as well, probably like 95% fucking Christians in the area, and I went against that. You know what I'm saying? And people look down on me for being an atheist, but you do what you got to do, and you're yourself, and you got to be yourself. So that's kind of what needs to happen with some people, and I'm sure it does happen with some people, and I'm sure some people die before they can do that, or go to jail and not realize that till after they come out of jail. So it's tough. Like, I'm sure there's ways we can change that, and there's ways we can change the ghetto, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not a genius. I can't think of ways to do it. I mean, it definitely is an educational problem, an environmental problem. a perpetuated problem of parents, especially young parents who are still living that way and getting pregnant, having kids, most likely single parent, and then they still have that mentality and they're teaching it to their kids. They're teaching fucking, you gotta take what you want. You know, you can't let people disrespect you. Someone disrespect you, you gotta fucking kill them and shit. You know, like it's very extreme. And so I don't know how we could change that. But it's definitely important to understand that. And I think as a person who's experienced that, I understand the mentality, and it's good to understand it. It's good to get down to the bottom of this. I'm sure that's not the only reason. I'm sure there's other reasons. But but to say that it's just about IQ and genetic, I don't believe that. Like if it is to do with that, it's a part of it, but it's not a large part of it. There's so much going on there. It's a conditioned learning. It's a dogma. It's even environment. You're growing up with people getting shot around you. I've seen people get shot. I've seen people get stabbed. I've seen dead bodies. These are the things you see growing up. And as a child, I'm not talking about, you know, teenager and shit. I'm talking about like not adolescents, but I'm talking about preteens and shit, like 7, 8 years old, seeing this kind of shit. And that's what you got to live with, you know. And those things, you know, early developmental stages are important to our minds, and the way we view the world, the way we are conditioned. It's very important. I've also read a study that diet is very important to like intelligence and IQ when you're growing up in your developmental stages, which totally makes sense. And I'll tell you, people in the ghetto do not have a good diet. I was fortunate enough to have parents who came from another country. So in those countries, people eat well. You know, they eat healthy foods. My parents were not big on getting sweets. We never had, you know, like we didn't have a lot of sweets in my house. We didn't have a lot of snacks. You know, my mother cooked every day, and good meals. You know, I ate traditional Peruvian and Dominican meals. Going out to eat, like going to McDonald's even, was like a treat. It rarely happened, you know. It was like me once every couple months. All right, let's go to McDonald's. If we did go out to eat, more often than not, it would be at a restaurant, like a Hispanic restaurant, most likely, and we'd be eating steak with rice and, you know, and salad and stuff. Like eating fast food was super rare. You know, as a kid, I was like, please, let's go to McDonald's. I want some McNuggets, you know, and my parents would be like, no, like, no, we're not going there. Like, that food is shitty, and, you know, we're wasting money eating outside when we could be eating at home. I mean, we were poor. So my parents, like, I know people say that, like, oh, you're poor, so you go to eat fast food because you can get more fast food and this and that. I don't believe that. I'm still poor, and I cook for myself the majority of the time. It's just that you spend 10, $20 and you can stretch that food out, you know. And I think that most of the times it's laziness, or maybe you don't have a lot of money. Say you have $3 for the day. You can get $3 menu things, or you can go and buy one slab of steak, of thin steak. That's not going to feed anybody as much as like 3 cheeseburgers is gonna. So I guess that's true in a sense. In another sense, it's not. But I guess that does help during developmental stages. If you're not eating right, or if you're breastfeeding your kid and you're not eating right, that's going to affect shit. There's just so much that goes into it that it does warrant discussion. And the genetics and IQ, that warrants discussion as well. And all the factors warrant discussion. We should research all this stuff and understand all these things, because you can't come up with a solution if you don't understand the problem. And sure, science and statistics is going to give you the problem, is going to show you what the problem is, but also experience is going to show you that too. I'm not saying every ghetto is like this. I would assume so. It seems like it from what I've seen. I grew up in the Northeast, so I know Northeast ghettos. You know what I'm saying? I live in New Jersey, but I've been in New York. I've chilled in Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, Manhattan. You know, anywhere New York City and North New Jersey, I understand that mentality in the ghettos there. Um, I'm sure there's some differences in other states or in the West Coast. I've also lived in the ghetto in Florida, and man, that shit is fucked up. But it's a similar mentality. You know what I'm saying? That the mentality I that prison like dogmatic mentality perpetuates there as well. It permeates the area. And I'm sure it's the same in the West Coast. I'm sure they're all the same things. I'm sure there might be a few things different, but in the end, it's probably, I would believe that it's the same all the way around. So, in conclusion, for the Rage After Storm thing, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. She's young. She looked at these stats. She came to a conclusion. That happens, man. That happens all the time. I've been guilty of that myself, to look at stats and come to a conclusion. And then, and then think about it more and be like, oh, wait, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to sit here and say she's racist. I don't think anybody should. I don't think people should harass her. I think people should open dialogue with her and maybe discuss how her conclusion's wrong. It's become a huge misconception I on Twitter, with everybody basically criticizing her for her sources and the conclusion she came to, and everybody on her defense just fires back with like screen caps of the statistics and, oh, look at these are the criminal statistics by race in the United States. And it's like, I'm constantly typing, that's not the argument. The argument isn't on the facts. The argument is on the conclusion. Like, it's just like if you were arguing with a feminist over the wage gap and they kept showing you the stats of the wage gap, and you keep saying, yes, I understand the wage differences, but you're coming to a conclusion that I don't agree with, and that's where the problem's starting, and it's stopping the conversation. She's blocked the other YouTubers who have had her on their site, and I think that she should open up and discuss this with people. There's no harm. It actually is good to discuss things with people. That's how we refine our ideas, and that's how we come to more likely conclusions. You might still be wrong after that, but at least you'll come into more likely ideas that make more sense. Because we all have the propensity to be stupid or stubborn or come to the wrong conclusions. So let me end this by saying, again, I don't refute any of the facts or stats. This is just anecdotal evidence. Not even evidence. I'm just letting you or telling you my experiences and observations from growing up in the area, spending time in these areas, and knowing people from these areas. You know what I'm saying? And being family friends with people from the area, and seeing this across the board, like to everybody I know from there has that same mentality. It's like unspoken rules they all have. So yeah, that's my video and my views on this. I would like to do more videos like this. So if you guys like this and have a topic you want me to discuss, let me know. Next, I am going to be talking about a documentary called The Red Pill by Cassie J and its reception in Australia by the Australian media and the public in general. So not sure when I'm going to be done with that. I'm still doing video games. I still want to review horror, even though I haven't done one in a while, but I still want to do it. So I don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to try to get these done for you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you guys like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and maybe share your experiences with me. I'd like to do some live streams too, if anybody's interested in that and have a cool topic they want to talk about. Let me know. Let's do this. All right, guys. Alf out.